This is a guy who's been maybe running, a year now, and that was his launch. He had a logo that turned out to be somebody else's logo and a speech that he delivered very poorly.
Well, welcome back to Moose on Loose. Today we've got Mark Carney getting caught using a logo that is not his, essentially, for his Liberal campaign launch here. We got Chrystia Freeland wiping clean her social media. We've got weird polling data that is kind of funny. Is it rigged? Is it wrong? Got a bunch of other stuff here. Let's jump into this. First off, with Pierre Poilievre gaining so much support, and now we have Mark Carney rolling in, trying to be the Liberal leader and all this. We're seeing this here. We're also seeing this sort of stuff happening down in America, but Canada's TD Bank, BMO, and National Bank withdraw from Net Zero Banking Alliance. This alliance here is centered around eco-climate goals and all that kind of stuff. These banks are pulling out of it. They know a conservative government is coming into power. They're tired of the woke nonsense. There's no proof of all this 8 out of 10 climate change nonsense that the Liberals have been pushing. These banks have pulled out. The world has finally had enough of this climate nonsense. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Carney is not going to like this. Next up, we got this one here, Chrystia Freeland. First off, what's going on here? So this is her X account. What is with this image? Like, this is creepy and weird. This is how she wants to display herself. It's funny because Pleb posted this. I mean, does it fit in there? It looks like it fits in there to me. But what's interesting, Melissa posted this. Chrystia Freeland has scrubbed her Instagram account clean. Everything gone except the Liberal leadership campaign announcement. So you can see here, nothing there. And just to verify, here is her Instagram account with nothing on it. She's trying to hide all of her 8 out of 10 bullcrap posts. I mean, that stuff lives on Cpac. It lives everywhere, all over the internet. Not like she can hide it. It's just she's not displaying it on her own page. She's been supporting the carbon tax. She's been with Justin Trudeau from the beginning. She's the carbon tax queen. But now, because she's running for Liberal leadership and she knows that policy is terrible, she doesn't want to support the carbon tax anymore. This is a complete clown show joke. As this guy's posting here, Trudeau deficits. Look at this, 1 billion, 19, 19, 14, 39. Then you got the world event here, 90, 35, 40, 61. All deficits. Thanks, Trudeau. And thanks, Freeland. That's Freeland's job, at least for the last bit here. A lot of responses here, like this one when she was laughing about freezing bank accounts. Canadians won't forget this kind of stuff.
I was certain, after a lot of deliberation with colleagues and many others, that we took the right decision. I was certain at the time. I was certain when I testified before Rouleau, and I remain certain today. Thank you.
That was one of the most disgraceful acts in Canadian history. Jumping over to Mark Carney. This is an interesting post here. Post by Table Salt says, Mark Carney needs a DEI coordinator. Not a single white person at this event. The community should be reflected, no? This one's hilarious too. So I didn't show this clip, but at the beginning of Mark Carney's speech, this woman came out to talk. And it turns out she doesn't even know who he is, but she was introducing him.
I would like to say a special prayer for Mr. Carney. I just met him today. I have never met him, but I Googled him to learn more about him. And I think I like the guy.
Yeah, that's a great way to pick someone. I Google him. I think I like him. This is the problem with the voters in Canada right now, is this right here. Did she Google the WF? Why are these people supporting someone they don't know? Liberals are literally the worst. And we've got this one, Mike Bloomberg. That's right. He's excited to see Mark Carney running for Canadian Prime Minister. His deep understanding, yada, yada, yada. I wish him every success on his journey. So basically, Mike Bloomberg endorsing Carney. Well, convenient that Mark Carney sits on the board of Bloomberg. And with that, we've got Mark Carney's logo here, and Met Credit came out. They're not a fan of this because, well, this credit collecting company doesn't want to be associated with a political party. They, as it says here, I didn't give them permission to use it. I'm not endorsing their campaign, and I'm not a liberal. This is too funny. Cat Canada came up with a new logo. Maybe they want to use this one. So we got an update here from Mark Carney's Liberal leadership race announcement. He had a handful of journalists he didn't like forced out of the building. They blocked them from getting in. Well, it turns out, we got this clip here, they actually called the cops to remove journalists that Carney didn't want to ask questions.
You've been advised you have to leave.
By nobody who's identifying themselves. They're just random. A random dude came up and said that this fellow as well. We're just, if we have to leave, I'm happy to leave, but nobody.
So no one is identifying themselves, so they can't be traced back to Carney's team or whatever. Like, it's disgraceful.
From whoever spoke this has told us that they're actually an authority figure, just people that I think don't like us. So.
Okay, well, you are trespassing, so you have to leave the property.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to come out this
Well,
way
let's
so
go
you
out
don't
this way.
walk in front of all of them?
Come on, the police got to do their job here, not forcing guys out the doors. They should be allowing them, forcing them in the door.
I don't, sure, yeah. Happy to, yep,
They're going to come guess what you trust.
okay.
What's your position in the campaign? No.
If you want to keep filming, you're welcome to, but you're going to have to be off the community property.
We'll have to pick up
Wow. So they forced them off the property here.
campaign.
The private event. Yeah, private event. Just
Okay,
so you
but
know.
they haven't booked this like playground.
No, but it is part of the property, so we're gonna get you to be off the property.
Okay,
You're free to film from there, but
sure.
This is disgraceful. They're forcing journalists off the property. They don't want them asking hard questions. It's a good thing because it shows they are nervous on the defense. Conservatives will capitalize on their weakness and counter mobilize faster than they can get organized. Game on. Next up, we've got multiple different polls here. So we've got this one coming from Chariste. This is what he's showing here. So we're seeing a huge conservative, as usual, 251 seats, no change, a -1 for Bloc, +2 Liberal, and -2 NDP. This is what he's modeling on the January 17th. If we look at these other polls, we've got this one. This is an Ecos research poll. And as you see here in Atlantic Canada, it shows the Liberals ahead here. Notice the date is January 15th. If we go to the last poll, which you can see here is just 3 days earlier, what's going on here? If we go to the source of that, we can see this here, this huge spike in the Liberals right here and the Conservatives going down. We can also see this one here. It shows the Conservatives at 39 and the Liberals at 28. This is ridiculous. So the guy who runs the Ecos is Frank Graves, and I will just quote what he has said in the past. You can decide if these numbers are accurate or whether you think these are accurate or not. In a 2022 article, Frank Graves analyzed Poilievre's rise, stating that he is harassing the growing tide of authoritarianism in Canada. Also in 2024 interview, Graves discussed increasing popularity of populism in Canada, noting that Poilievre often frames his party as common sense conservatives, contrasting them with ivory tower elites. So clearly Frank Graves doesn't like Pierre Poilievre. Is that why we're seeing numbers like this that don't really seem to make sense? You can even see here he tweeted, said major narrowing of race in the past 4 days, significant and massive change. Yeah, I'm thinking this is a cherry picked data. We can see here this is a deleted tweet from Frank Graves, says a real conservative option is a healthy counterbalance in a healthy democracy. Pierre Poilievre is an acolyte of authoritarian populism. This is never healthy. You are on notice. Going to make sure you're not going to lead my country. I don't make idle threats. So is he tinkering with his data to try to hurt Pierre Poilievre? As Karen says here, Ecos is a Liberal proxy. They poll at Liberals' favor. They're trying to shift the tide in the Liberals' favor. That's what it seems like. Who knows? Next up, we have Nick Nanos coming on with his data and showing what's going on here in Canada.
According to the latest numbers from Nanos Research, the Conservatives still have a very healthy lead. They are up 3.7% in the last 4 weeks, while the Liberals are down nearly that amount. The NDP has also slipped by just over 2%. Joining me now to dig deeper into these numbers is founder and chief data scientist at Nanos Research, Nick Nanos. Nick, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Great to join you.
So appreciate those numbers as well, but let's start with the state of the Liberal Party as we have it. Your polling puts them about 27 points behind the Conservatives and dropping. What has history shown us with leadership races and how that could give the party a bit of a bump out of this?
Well, you know, probably what will happen and what we've seen in the past is that when there's a resignation of an unpopular leader of a party, many times those party numbers go up because people go, okay, that leader's gone. Now there'll be someone new. But I think for the Liberals, they're probably going to have to wait until we know who all the candidates are. And this is why Chrystia Freeland's announcement to enter the race will probably be one of the key points where we'll see whether a new trend appears for the Liberals. But, you know, but right now, they're way behind. They're 27 points back of the Conservatives. Just think, the Liberals were worried when they were 10 points back, 15 points back, 20 points back, 27, mucho.
I mean, look at that other poll. It was 11 points. So clearly some funny numbers there.
Big. That's a mucho big advantage.
Yeah, but like they say, the most dangerous lead in hockey is a 3-goal lead, right? And it seems insurmountable. And then, who knows? I'm kidding. I'm really kidding about that one. But you have some polling recently, specifically on Chrystia Freeland, though, and how people felt about her after her resignation from cabinet. Could the impression of Ms. Freeland improve even more now?
I think so. And I think a lot of this will have to do with her launch and what she decides to focus on. The big question is, as the former deputy prime minister, as the former minister of finance, as a former kind of ranking Liberal that supported Justin Trudeau, how far will she go to distance herself from her former political ally and colleague. And I think that's going to be the big question, because she's been at the table, been an advocate, and has fought hard beside Justin Trudeau over the last number of years. And, you know, right now, his brand is weak. And that's one of the things that's dragging down the Liberal brand writ large. So I think, how far will she distance herself from everything that she's done basically since 2015?
Well, we already got a bit of an indication this week, right, where we had reporting that she has already said she would likely walk away or very much scrap the consumer carbon tax. How much do you think that will be a factor, not only with the field of candidates and where they will sort of sit on that, but going into an election? Is that going to be the ballot box question against Pierre Poilievre as he wants it, especially when you consider where the leadership is going?
Well,
Scrapping the carbon tax. They think Canadians are stupid. We're not going to, we completely forgot you guys put that on us and destroyed our economy. Yeah, you guys scrapped it. Great. We'll vote for you now. Come on. Chrystia Freeland, she's been Justin Trudeau's number 2 the entire time. She can't distance herself from Trudeau. It's impossible. She was there the entire time. She never pushed back against him once. She was always there supporting him all the way, 8 out of 10, all that bull crap. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's not happening. She's going down with the ship, whether she likes it or not. Maybe she gets a little bump from some of the Liberals who come back because they despise Trudeau. It's not going to happen. Maybe she wins the leadership race. It won't matter. I don't think she's going to win that race. I think Carney's going to take it because he's Mr. Banker, and we're going to have some dark days here in Canada until we get an actual election.
I think this is an exercise in damage control for the Liberals. Like, you know, the carbon tax has been unpopular. Canadians are worried about the rising cost of living. And for some people, and in some cases, this is a contributor because it contributes to food, being shipped around. But, you know, the thing is that for average Canadians, why don't we just say they're not stupid? You know, they hear politicians reverse themselves and they know that it's just part of a survival strategy. So, you know, for the Liberals, they might, the contenders might reverse themselves on the carbon tax. But, you know, for her, she actually has to explain how she can go from being 100% behind a carbon tax and being at the table and being the advocate for the carbon tax to reversing herself. And, you know, the same applies to Mark Carney, because we have to be fair. He's been supportive of a carbon tax. Yeah. He's been a leader on kind of environmental issues. And, you know, he's also kind of backpedaling on stuff like that.
Yeah. He's not just a supporter of the carbon tax. He has been the kingpin. He is king carbon tax in the world. He's the guy who's pushing it the most. He was the backbone, the framework for Greta Thunberg and her whole movement pushing forward. He was the guy behind it. So he's not just some little carbon tax guy. He is the carbon tax guy.
Yeah, and I imagine the polling that you've either started or tried to start on potential contenders and where they would fare really differs based on day to day, because somebody drops out seemingly every day and somebody else puts their name in there. But are we really going to see the emergence here of a 2-horse race? And we know that Karina Gould, the Liberal House leader, is going to announce this weekend. But do you think this really is Carney versus Freeland?
I think so, based on the speculation right now. And you know what? A 2-person race is probably good for the Liberals, because it'll focus things. You know, if you remember, Michael, some of those massive leadership contests where they have like 20, 12, 15 people on the stage, that it doesn't allow for the same type of clarity. And, you know, Canadians like a horse race. And I think for the 2 frontrunners, Freeland and Carney, it'll be good for both of them to have a main contender to put pressure on each other, so that we can see who can, who will get the advantage.
This isn't a horse race. This is basically 2 criminals running, which one can run further and faster. And Karina Gould, is she serious? She's not looked at the polling. Let her come out and say she's going to run. It's just going to be more humiliation. That's what she needs. She's just as egotistical as Trudeau.
Do you think in the end this will come down to what Canadians will look at this as, what they want as the Liberal leader, but then going forward as a prime minister is who is best placed to take on Donald Trump because of where we are in this environment right now?
I think the 2 things that Canadians are going to look at is how far will the winner of the Liberal leadership race distance themselves from the previous government? Is it really a break from the past? And then the second question, which also applies to Pierre Poilievre, who might be best to help Canada navigate a Trump administration and to deal with Donald Trump?
Because we've seen Chrystia Freeland, she, in one of her HQ sites, has the Donald Trump post about her and her resignation, and kind of saying it's almost evocative of Kamala Harris and her sort of brat logo, that type of thing. Do you think that is something that she's going to try and leverage?
I think so. And the thing is that Chrystia Freeland is an intelligent person that's very scrappy. She was scrappy with the first Trump administration, and it actually paid dividends for Canada. Mark Carney, different kind of beast, as an economist and so forth. So
Mark Carney, he's got his credentials, Bank of Canada, all etc. His speech, though, was weak. He came out weak, no energy, blocking journalists who would ask tough questions. It's disgraceful. And having, as you saw, the cops come in and force them off the property. You got Mark Carney, Mr. Rolls Royce. He's not a man of the people. This guy wants to be prime minister. He's never won anything. A man who's never been elected. I believe he'll be the first prime minister ever who's never won anything and just became prime minister. Didn't win a riding, didn't win anything. No elections, just anointed, appointed.
Two completely different styles, probably, of dealing with the Trump administration, and two different approaches.
Yeah, and going to set up a really interesting leadership race. I have a feeling you're going to be in pretty often.
Scrap the carbon tax and they'll replace it with a home equity tax. Sneaky, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. They all work for Davos. Cool. What's interesting too is Mark Carney is the godfather to Chrystia Freeland's son. So are they going to get into a scrappy battle, or are they going to keep things nice? It's very interesting, the dynamic there. Speaking of Mark Carney's Rolls Royce, who got this one, comparison to Jagmeet Singh and his Maserati. These guys are all the same. And speaking of which, Jagmeet Singh getting no attention, just keeps running his mouth on social media. So it says here, why Trump-loving billionaires like Elon Musk backing Poilievre? He's just keeping with his billionaire bootlicking thing. Has he not checked the polling numbers? He's gone down 2 points. It's not working, Jagmeet.
So get this. Elon Musk endorsed Pierre Poilievre, which is not surprising because Elon Musk knows Pierre Poilievre's in it for billionaires. He's going to make them richer. But what makes it even more offensive is that Elon Musk is a part of Donald Trump's administration. These are the guys that are threatening to take over our country, to make us the 51st state of the United States.
Do you think Elon Musk is going to support annexing of Canada?
That's horrible. And so you would think, what would Pierre Poilievre say to that? Probably say, no, I reject that endorsement. Wrong. He said in response to the question, do you accept this endorsement? Oh, Elon Musk is a great guy. He complimented the guy that's a part of an administration that wants to take over our country.
Pierre Poilievre said he hopes Elon Musk comes to Canada and brings investment money with him and builds cars in Canada. That is what he said. Jagmeet likes to lie. It's all he does.
We don't need another government or another prime minister that wants to make billionaires richer. We need a government that's going to fight for the working class. That's what I promise to do.
We need elected leaders who actually don't lie. I bet you're making a backroom deal with Carney. You're that type of guy. I don't put it past him. He'll be locking in his pension here, at least the time frame with the election, 36 days, all that stuff, in a couple of days, probably 3 days from now. So he's getting to that point where he's already secured that pension, basically. So maybe he makes a dirty deal. Jumping over to the CTV panel, they talk about the Liberal clown show scrapping the carbon tax now.
Yeah, and Gerdeton, when it comes to policy, it would seem like at least the two major frontrunners here, both Freeland and Carney, kind of distancing themselves right now from the consumer carbon tax. How significant do you think that will be in playing where the votes go?
I think it's going to be difficult for both of them to distance themselves from a policy that they're so deeply connected with. But you do see from Carney particularly this pretty clear shift to the right for the Liberals. And you see him in his opening comments that were made during his launch, criticizing the far left and the fact that government spending is not the solution to societal ills. And the question I ask is, what is that a shot at? Does he have a problem with dental care and the fact that people who couldn't afford dental care now have access to it? And is there
Leave it to Jagmeet's brother to just keep pumping his tires. Why do they bring him on here? Obviously, he has interest to just help his brother out.
private solution to something that is clearly should be under our public healthcare system? Does he have a problem with childcare, the supports that are going to working families who require that support? That kind of rhetoric is something you'd hear from conservatives, something that, I guess I always say liberal Tories, same old story. Well, you're seeing it live and direct right now with Carney taking direct shots at social programming that have actually been pushed by the NDP and have benefited Canada.
Sabrina, I don't want to use your own words on you, but does this mean now, this shift away from a consumer carbon tax, that the Liberals are no longer in their green era?
Good. I like that pivot. I think that one of the things that is important as we go into a federal election is that the carbon tax is going to play a much smaller role today as being a ballot question than it would have even in September of last year. And so I think that whether or not we shift away from a consumer carbon tax, the Liberals are still have proven to be one of the only parties that has the most credible environmental plan. And I think as long as they can connect.
Credible, 8 out of 10, yet there's no data to back what they're saying this entire time. It was just, trust me, bro, I know what I'm talking about.
The environment to people's pocketbooks in a way that shows how important climate change is and how important it is that we invest in it. I think that still provides them with a path to win back keep in their pockets those climate voters. I think that what is the most important thing that comes out of this, leadership race is going to be less about the carbon tax and more about what any leader positions themselves, both as a foe to Donald Trump, but also as somebody who's willing to listen to Liberals, go out into the grassroots, start to talk to constituency associations, and have those deep conversations that I think maybe hasn't really happened since, the last two by-election losses. And so
how can there be deep conversations when all the Liberals do is lie? Chrystia Freeland is on record saying that Canadians get back every dollar they pay into this carbon tax. Yet when the parliamentary budget officer came out and the numbers came out, it was like $2 billion that the Liberal government was keeping from Canadians. They weren't paying it all back.
So I think that in that sense, somebody like Karina Gould does have an advantage because she's somebody that is, I think, really deeply connected to her community, deeply connected to those other communities that she can go out and have those conversations.
Karina Gould is pulling out 1%. She's deeply connected to nothing. She's going to lose her own riding. I showed it in the last video. She's getting absolutely destroyed in Burlington.
And when we talk about the leadership race, I think that's going to be more important. It'll be a little bit different, I think, when we get to the actual election.
This lady is delusional. She doesn't know what she's talking about at all.
Melanie, I've only got about 30, but does this mean that all of those signs, axe the tax, are now going to have to go into some sort of recycling bin? Is the carbon tax officially off the ballot?
No, because there's plenty of other taxes that are going to need to be taxed or axed, rather. Yeah, so I think that it'll still get plenty of use regardless. And really, the ultimate question is, can you trust any of these Liberal leadership candidates to actually do that when they've been backing a carbon tax for years? I think the biggest disappointment for me this week was I thought it was interesting that Mark Carney did pretty well on Jon Stewart, and then his speech that he delivered. This is a guy who's been maybe running for a year now, longer. I don't know. He's been the ideal candidate for the Liberals for a long time, and that was his launch. He had a logo that turned out to be somebody else's logo entirely, belongs to a collections agency, and a speech that he delivered very poorly. Major disappointment.
His speech was a snooze fest, and he was saying, I have good ties to Edmonton. You could tell he's just lying. He has no ties there, aside from he grew up there, went to school there, and then left, went to Harvard and Oxford, and never came back. He doesn't have ties there anymore. People don't know him there. People can't identify him there. It was a weak speech. No Liberal can separate themselves from this horrific mess this party has created. Jagmeet's failed brother, who lost his seat, Mr. Lobbyist. Jagmeet will soon meet the same fate. This panel is discussing and willfully incompetent. And this is correct. Jagmeet's brother was elected in Burlington East in 2018 and lost his seat in 2022. And now he got his brother pumping his tires here on CTV every once in a while in this panel. There you have it. This clown show is getting stupider by the day. Which one of these circus masters will get the throne? We don't know. The guy who's never been elected but helped Trudeau destroy Canada, or Trudeau's number 2 who helped Trudeau destroy Canada?